School is the most important thing in your life. And while I hate school, I got a PhD. And I hate school. I hate everything about it. So somebody say, E, if you hate school so much, why you get a PhD? Because I hate school, but I love options. You can have average skill, but you can't have average will. You can't have average will. Like your will has to be phenomenal. You have to see basketball as the gateway. It's like a passport. Basketball is just your way to get in, and then once you get in, boom, then you dominate. So I'm telling you, you're not taking a test because they're giving you the test. You're taking a test that's about to change your life, your mama's life. And I know if you take the test serious, you'll kill it. When you go through your go-through, your siblings are watching you. When you go through your go-through, your friends are watching you. When you go through your go-through, your parents are watching you. And people will use your strength to get through their stuff.
Welcome to the Extreme Teachers Podcast. We are so glad you're joining us today. We've got an exciting group of guests today joining us and an exciting topic too. So when you listen to this, we'll have been back probably for a few weeks, but we just recently, the team of people you can see here and Dr. Eric Thomas took a group of students with us. I know we shared with our audience here a while ago we were going to do this, but took a group of students to the Super Bowl for the Super Bowl experience and the game and a weekend full of just mentorship and hanging out and celebrating their accomplishments after following some programming that we did in their schools, and the students earned the trip. So we're going to excited to talk about it today and recap a little bit what that experience was like. And so some new faces here that we haven't seen before. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves to make sure that we do you justice. Tell a little bit about who you are and why you're joining us today, if that's cool. Aaron, we'll start with you.
All right. Hello, everybody. Aaron Quinney, Program Director, School Days Foundation. Katie, along with myself, are kind of the two that spearheaded this whole trip. And I'm excited to tell everybody about it and, the great time that we had. So good meeting everybody who's watching.
Very good. And then we've got a couple chaperones with us. Yeah. Will you tell us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll jump in and talk about our experience too.
I'm Dan Bogan. I'm the principal of Sexton High School in Lansing, Michigan. Had the opportunity to come off the bench and come to the Super Bowl. One of my staff members was supposed to come, but had an accident and was unable to. So it was a great opportunity for me to have Aaron and E.T. invite me to come to the Super Bowl with my students.
I'm Mark Miller. I'm the Chief of Student Support Services for Benton Harbor Area Schools. Had an opportunity with my college teammate, Aaron. We've been talking about this for a couple of years, with the opportunity of working with Eric Thomas and his foundation and School Days. And I've been out in Benton Harbor for 2 years. This year, we saw the opportunity to have this, this program come to our district, and we just ran with it. Our students were so excited about even the opportunity to even have Eric Thomas come to the school. And after that, Dr. Townsend, the whole administration was so excited and just being a part of it. So just appreciate everyone for having me on this podcast and a part of the program.
And you guys know Vondale, you've been with us here before, but you and your students got to join us this past weekend too. So
yeah, Vondale Singleton.
I know who you are, but yeah, tell us.
Founder of the Champs Male Mentoring Program. A huge thank you and shout out to Brother Aaron, Dr. Eric Thomas, for including Champs in a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Our 3 E's are education, empowerment, and exposure. And we are always looking for ways to get our brothers out the hood, off the block, and have them experience and see things that they wouldn't likewise see. Many adults would dream to go to the Super Bowl, and yet our young people are getting this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they'll never forget it. So just super grateful, super grateful.
Yeah, So we touched a little bit about this in a previous episode, but we started in a few of these schools. We plan to do more schools, and COVID, kind of changed things up on us a little bit this year. So we'll be back in some more. We're looking for some more schools soon, but we joined a couple of these schools at Sexton and Benton Harbor they were talking about, and brought the Playbook program that we've talked about here before, with the goal of increasing literacy and leadership skills in low-income communities and being able to serve teachers, students, families with resources that were tangible, and then motivation, of course, that goes along with that to help increase those skills. And while we were there in their schools, we were so excited just to be there. And the students were so excited, of course, to have Eric there. And then he shared with them during those presentations that if they were to complete a checklist that we gave them, he was going to bring a group of them on this trip. So that's just a little background of how we got here. We had 16 students total, Aaron? 15.
Yep, we ended up with 16.
Okay, so those kiddos did everything that was on their list that we provided them. So they had to increase attendance and grades. Academics had to show growth and no discipline referrals. And they also had to read, of course. I assigned them some reading, but it was choice reading. We wanted them to get books in their hands that they were interested in reading and increase their reading motivation. So they accomplished all of those things and should have felt very proud of themselves. And that's how they ended up with us, joining us on this trip this past weekend. So, Sam, you weren't with us, but you've heard a little bit about it ahead of time. So maybe you can jump in and ask us if there's some specific questions that we can share with you about how it went.
I think first, I just love to hear from everyone. What was the highlight of the trip for you all and your students?
I think just the entire experience, watching some of my students on the airplane who've never had that experience of flying, meeting, Brother Vondell and Mark and Townsville, people I have got an opportunity to meet before, and just to fellowship with them, and seeing Aaron and his beautiful wife and his little girl and Katie and her husband, and just people I haven't seen in a while, and just the whole experience. And again, just watching my students enjoy things that they have never been exposed, as Vondell said earlier, too. So, and then also get an opportunity to see my man, E.T., who I've known since 95, 96.
I would say, like Coach Bogan said, just the opportunity for our students that never flew up on an airplane before, just seeing their faces, just they're like, man, everything you guys said you was going to do, you are actually doing it. And, just changing their mindset. Some like, man, I'm thinking about coming to school out here. I want to move to California. And we all know about the game was the highlight in the halftime show. Everybody was so excited about that, and the opportunity to see all the stars, we walking around it, and the students like, we breathing the same air as the billionaires. And I'm like, I told you, it's a whole nother level out here, so that was the highlight, just hearing the kids talk about the trip and, talk about their experience, and just saying, man, I wish we could stay another week, and once they got back, it was like, man, y'all changed our life, type of thing. So that was the highlight. It was all about the kids, because, we have opportunities like this. We have the resources to do this type of stuff a lot. But for those students that never been on an airplane before, never been to California before, that was just amazing.
Yeah, I loved when you shared, I think, with us kind of mid-trip that you had heard them talking about, like, wow, they actually are doing all the things that they said they were going to do, right? And
right.
I just think that's so powerful, because some of our students are just not used to that follow through, right? They maybe doubted that it didn't sound like it was actually possible, the things that And of course, everybody's so grateful that E helped arrange and make that happen for all of them. But I think that was a really powerful piece, getting to see the kids feel our goal was to help them feel important and special, and that they are worth having experiences like this, and that those experiences, I know that Eric really cares about exposure and access, and we want them to feel like those are things that they could have again in their future, and that they're worthy of that too. So seeing that way that made them feel, I think, was really, really special. And then of course, I drilled all of them on what books did they read. And I loved hearing about that too. So they did so good too. They were there were a lot of books I'd heard of, and they were telling me all about them. And so that was, of course, a highlight for me too, is hearing about that and having conversations about so they were pretty good, right? You got to choose a book you actually like to read, and what that looks like for them moving forward, and being able to, talk about how they'll continue reading because they figured that out. So that was fun as well.
And I think, just really quickly, we've talked about this on previous podcasts, but also that follow through is so important. But also in the pandemic, how many times have you all had to cancel things for kids, right? Because of outside of anyone's specific control as well. So I can only imagine the feeling of a kid, oh, this really happened, especially all the things that have happened in these last 2 years.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about it was leading up to the Super Bowl, you're looking on the NFL's website, and it's they got to be vaccinated. And if they're not vaccinated, we got to test. So we literally went through every hoop just to make sure that nobody was left at the front gate. And when we got there to check in, they just scanned our tickets and were like,
right,
go ahead. And I'm like, hold on, y'all about to check these documents, because we went through.
I know that's right.
I don't know what, trying to make sure everybody was straight.
Frame them.
And literally we're just like, all right, show us the ticket. And I'm like, wow. So, but either way, you're right, Sam. It was the pandemic, and that's even why we kind of held out to probably later than you typically would have to buy tickets and flights and all that, just because the NFL even was saying, hey, if it somehow gets canceled, because of it being in LA and they have some tighter restrictions in other places, they were thinking about moving into Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So, just everything that we were, potentially seeing down the road, and for it all to come together, it was great.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit at the end of the trip too, talking with students about how, all of the things fell into place eventually, right? But we had to be able to kind of roll with the punches, and couldn't predict all the things that happen, especially in a COVID world. Sam, like you're talking about all those examples that Aaron shared, and thinking about that from a life perspective, and how we can't control all of the outside things always, but we can control our approach to things and how we're going to execute the things that are in front of us and on our plate, and create the experience or the life or the academics that we want for ourselves, despite whatever is going on around us. So I think those were some good connections for them before they headed home too.
Yeah, I also think that there were experiences within the experience. So they had a chance to visit 2 cities in California, San Diego and Los Angeles, on one trip, and 2 different styles and paces of cities. And even being at the Super Bowl experience, when ET was like, hey, Chris Paul want to talk to y'all, that was an experience within an experience. Mm-hmm. And then him saying, look around, don't just say we here, but think about owning this building. And that was a takeaway from one of our kids. First time flying on a plane, and they had a chance to get on NBC yesterday and get interviewed about the trip. And he was talking about what ET mentioned, think about owning this building. That was his takeaway. Mm-hmm. Maybe one day I can be the owner. So it wasn't just coming to the Super Bowl and having a good time, but maybe I can be the owner of the team. Maybe I can be the owner. It kind of challenged them beyond what they would typically be challenged in through the experiences that we had. So just to see them, as everybody echoed, have these first time experience. It was my first time. I'm in my 40s. That was my first time going to a Super Bowl. And so I had something to talk about to my son. I went live with my 7-year-old back here in Chicago. And he was like, "Oh man, you at the Super Bowl?" I said, turn it on, go watch it. And so he watched the Super Bowl while I was there live. And hopefully, as ET mentioned, we want to double and triple this opportunity and get more young people who this would be their first time, and they'll be able to tell their kids about it. So it's just exposure is everything.
Yeah. And to add to that, Vondell, with the exposure piece, like, I think it's important to remember. So, for instance, in my previous job, probably 8 years ago, I used to take students on college tours, right? And we used to take them, all, up and down the East Coast, from Atlanta to Howard to, wherever, across the South, a bunch of different schools. And, at some point, and this is where I really butted head with some decision makers, they were saying, well, a lot of our kids aren't going to these schools. So then they started like really shrinking down the tours to schools that were like closer to, even in Atlanta or just in Georgia. And I'm like, look, it's not about them wanting to go to that specific school. Like y'all are missing the point here. The point is we're trying to get them out of Atlanta. We're trying to get them to see other things. And it does something to your brain to see what else is out there. So although they may not go to Howard, they do know they want to get out and see the rest of the country. They do know that they want to go to a school similar to that. But if all we're showing them is, Chattahoochee Technical College, then their mind's going to be somewhat molded down to thinking that that's probably one of their few options. So, even with a trip to Cali, even if the kids don't want to move to California, they know, hey, I do want to go somewhere where there's a lot going on. I do want to go somewhere where it's busy and action. I do want to get out of the city that I'm in. And I think that's more important than saying, hey, we're actually trying to entice kids to move to Cali. That wasn't the point. We're trying to entice them to go back to where they're from and get to grinding, knowing that there's something bigger out there for them, wherever that road may take them. So with that exposure piece, that's what it's all about, that exposure and experience, and not so much about specifically us trying to push them in a certain direction. This is just about simply opening their brain to want more for themselves.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, for sure. And just knowing that we believe they're capable of it, that they're capable of those things, right? So we've talked about this on the podcast before too, that kids rise to the level of expectations that we set for them so often. And if we only take them to the 2 schools that are within 15 minutes in your example, right? Then they think that's all that is available to them. And there's nothing wrong with that either. If that's what they want, then that's wonderful. Right. But taking them and exposing them to more provides more options and shows them that, hey, we have expectations for you, that you're capable of doing anything that you want, or going anywhere that you want, or rising to a high level of success if that's what you want for yourself. So, Vondell, that was a takeaway for me too when you mentioned E's speech about saying like you could own this building. I loved that for the kids when he also shared. So we probably have a little clip of that we can share here too, but shared with them again a little bit about his story and his background, and that maybe people wouldn't have expected him to be where he is now from where he came from. And then also the example of the building was just like a tangible example. He told them, like, look around. Like, you don't have to just be a player to be in this kind of scenario, or, even a team owner or something, but somebody owns this building and somebody owns that restaurant over there. And, there are so many possibilities for you to be successful. So just giving them like real tangible examples, and that they could see with their eyes that were different from what they'd seen before, I think it was fun to see the looks on their faces as they were listening to that speech from him, for sure.
Yeah. And it was cool that, I know we have some Chicago kids who live in the bigger city, but specifically for like even the smaller cities like Lansing and Benton Harbor, like, can you imagine? Like, I'm from Lansing, where it's 100,000 people maybe, and Benton Harbor, which is even smaller than that.
Smaller.
And you literally every day are just going about your life in this town. 90% of probably everything they're doing revolves around that city, and then you literally hop on a plane and probably go the furthest away from your city as you possibly can go, from Benton Harbor which is to California, and think about that even in itself, like a kid's first plane ride. And it was like, what, 4.5 hours. It's not like they just zipped on an hour ride. It's like they got the full experience of everything. So I just know it was crazy for somebody from such a small town to just, this totally opposite of what their everyday life is used to.
Right. And that's a great point you make, man, because a lot of students, like you said, they live in a small town. I'm from Detroit, a bigger city. But I actually had an opportunity when I was a student to go on an educational trip to Europe. And it just brought back memories for me because I never will forget that trip when I was in middle school, going to France, Italy, Rome, seeing the Eiffel Tower, Leaning Tower of Pisa, the Colosseum, So when they were just talking, I was like, man, I was him, I was that kid right there, and it just made me want to travel the world and go to college away from Detroit, So just when they came back, I was like, make sure you tell your friends, man. Like, make sure you tell your family members, like, it's something bigger and better out here. And they was like, man, yeah, I can't wait to go tell my big brother or my little sister, about California, man. Like, we only seen this on TV. Nobody in my family ever been this far away from the city of Benton Harbor. So it was just a great opportunity just for, like you said, for them to see something else, because everything they have, I think the farthest a lot of kids have been, it was Chicago, So, it's just like, it's something that's bigger, better, greater out there. And you can, even if you don't want to leave, Michigan, it's something else out there though.
Yep.
That's right. I just want to, again, thank School Days for the opportunity that they gave all the students, and just the thought-provoking piece that was given to our young people to be able to dream about these things, and made it tangible for them to see it and experience. I know one of my students said, "Coach, I counted 20 Teslas. I can't believe it's Teslas everywhere." I said, "Yeah." I said, "This is a whole nother realm of life in California." As Vondell said, we were in San Diego and traveling to Los Angeles back and forth. Kids were able just to see the coast, the ocean, and see just all different types of sights, and to watch them take it in. You could see the change happening. And I'm talking with my students, with Chicago's, Vondell students with Benton Harbor, watching them inhale all that and being a part of something great, because it was truly a great experience, and the whole experience, and to see our students start to bond and talk and fellowship together. And, it was really turned into a close-knit trip.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, Coach, because you said it. And I was saying that at the beginning. I'm thinking specifically Charleston, who was one of your students. And, he was like the older male from your side. And at the beginning, he was kind of just like, figuring it out. And like by that last day, he was like running all around with the other students from the other schools. And they were like joking on each other. And I'm like, man, like, I wish I would have did it the first day, because you see, like, so it's different kids from different places, and it just shows like, hey, they're all the same. You know what I mean? So it knows we're working towards the right goal. We got all the same kind of kids, and to see them interacting with each other, even towards the end of the trip was phenomenal. I was excited to see that just as much as anything else.
Right.
Yeah, they was making the connections for real, man. One of my students is related to one of Principal Bogan's students.
Oh,
she was like, I think that's my cousin, Mr. Miller. I'm like, really? Like, look, my aunt just said your cousin is on that same trip. I'm like, just call her name. She was scared, so I called her name, and she was like, one of your students, she turned around, I was like, yeah, that's her.
Oh my God.
They was talking about family reunions and everything on the trip,
awesome.
So that was a good connection.
So when Aaron was just talking about the college tours, right? And like the example, he's like, oh, I might not be going to Howard, but I'm seeing Howard, right? And I think about like Kamala Harris is our vice president right now. Like she attended Howard. So me as a kid in this world, I'm making more connections to the world of like, I visited Howard University, and now the vice president is a graduate of Howard University, right? And so I think that's just that's the power in these types of experiences, how you view the world and how you can connect to the world, right? After and during these experiences. So I'm just curious also about what you all are hoping for, after they've had this experience, or any, opportunities back at the school or in the community. But, what are your hopes for the students after having this experience?
I know one of mine is just to continue to fan that spark and that flame that was created by the trip. And one of the things I talked to Vondell about is now I want to expose some kids to Hamilton and, do other things to continue to broaden their horizons. And so I think that's something that has to be ongoing for us as educators. We need to be intentional about making sure our students are exposed so they can dream, because at this age, impossible is nothing if you give them that opportunity to dream about it and to expose them to these great opportunities that we've had, some of us. It was my first Super Bowl experience at 53, but I've been able to travel around the country and the world and see things, but never did I think that I said I'd get to it maybe one day, the Super Bowl experience, but it was one of my bucket list items. So I was blessed to be able to do that. And I told my kids that. I said, and you guys have done it before you're 20, before you're 18, some of you, so it was just an injection of energy that I saw in them, even when we came home and watched them interact with their friends and staff members in the school as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note like that they saw that directly related to them handling business, there's something positive at the end of that. Regardless if that's Super Bowl,
yes,
or maybe down the road that high paying job or whatever it might be, I know that if I handle business, something positive comes out of that, right? So I think that, and obviously, we're going to do follow up, stuff with the schools as well, just to make sure we're tracking them and they're progressing still. But at the end of the day, I think that's what's most important. Hey, I handle business. Something positive comes out of it, and I think they probably can grasp that concept a little bit more now, since they, obviously were selected as, these students to attend the trip. So I think that's what the big takeaway, from them moving forward, hopefully will be. I handle business, good things happen.
Yep. That's my hope for them too. And the literacy and the leadership piece, those are our goals. Those kids, I'm telling you, were leaders. They did a fabulous job. Their behavior was wonderful the entire time. They treated each other with respect. I loved hearing you talk about how they became friends when we actually went to the Super Bowl experience the day before, where they could kind of walk around and, play games and that kind of thing. And I think it was your group of kids, Vondale, that their tickets just happened to, they all had the same thing, but somehow they got lucky, and their tickets, they were letting them to the front of lines.
Oh, they was doing some Chicago stuff out there. Using the brand ambassadors. Like, hey, we need to be at the front of the line.
They look different.
So everybody else is at the wristband.
Hey, trust me. They told me the whole story. But the powerful
they were being
thing,
very
though,
honest.
And what you're saying, though, is now we have a space where they have the freedom to advocate for themselves. And say, no, I'm a part of Eric Thomas's group. We supposed to belong at the front of the line. Let us through. And then also let me say this about Brother Mark and Coach Bogan. I've already decided that I'm making the trips. right? We going over to their cities and to their schools. I want to take some of our young people from Chicago and build that bridge and build that connection now, because I had the chance and the opportunity to meet these brothers. And I'm like, okay, I've never been to Sexton. I haven't been to Benton Harbor, but I looked on the map. Benton Harbor is right around the corner from Chicago. There's no reason for me not to make a trip over there.
Exactly.
The same thing, I've been to Lansing once in my lifetime, but now that I met them, we can bring more kids and we can start to build a collaborative connection of power and energy that, who knows, they may be business partners. These kids may be business partners with each other one day.
Yep.
And so again, like limitless opportunities that I'm already thinking about, how do we capitalize on this so it's not just a one-time event, is creating a legacy, opportunities beyond the Super Bowl.
Yep. That's good.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I was going to say the same exact thing about, your mentoring program. I was planning to do that here, and I seen one of Coach Bogan's students was a Kappa leaguer. I'm a Kappa, so I'm like, man, I'm just making all these connections. Like, man, we need those programs in our school. We need those resources in our school, and for our students, they already had, once they got off the plane, it was news report. They had to report to the superintendent's office for, their interviews, and they're like, man, like this don't stop. I'm like, I'm telling you, you guys are superstars, and we're going to continue to be that way. Like tomorrow, you got a game tomorrow. You got to be ready to play. They went out there, they played, they won a game. I'm like, this is what it's like when you go to college if you want to be a student athlete. So just for them to experience that, at this level, it's great, because we, most of us went to the next level, played college sports and things like that. And we have a student athletes on this trip. So it was like, okay, I'm trying to show you, so you don't be surprised when you go to the next level. This is how it is. You don't have cameras in your face. You're going to have people interview you when you don't feel like interviewing.
Yeah.
But you have to continue to do great work. You have to go to class, even though you don't feel like you're tired. We came in at 9:30. You got to be in class at 7:00. So it's just keep building and building it for the whole community as well, because some pastors have reached out to me asking if we could, have Eric Thomas come and speak to the whole community. The mayor, his daughter was on the trip, and he was like, man, if we could just have this type of momentum for our city, man, this would be great. So just keeping this going, because a lot of our students are going to graduate this year. But I told them, make those connections with Aaron. He in real estate. Make those connections with Vondell. He's out there doing mentoring. You could be an intern one day. I said, what I do, I keep my resources. I keep networking, and you never know where you may be.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah. And just, again, the networking piece that Vondell and Mark talked about, I know I talked to Mark about bringing some of his ventures to my school for my students. Definitely plan on using him for that, and bringing champs to Sexton and the Lansing area. So being able to expose champs and our students to that type of upper level mentoring. So me and Vondell will be in contact on putting that together. So our networking, so this trip not only did things for our students, it did things for the adults as well, and to bring us in contact, and so we can strengthen our own network and ourselves.
I love it. All those are goals too of why we were there to begin with, right, Aaron? I mean, like when we talk about the whole program to begin with, we wanted community building. We didn't want it in and out, like we visit your school one day and we leave.
Yep.
It was really important to us that we talk about motivating the students, but we also met with parents. I know we've talked about that before, right? Building the village, and we put real tangible things in their hands, planners and books and things we wanted them to use. And then we tracked their data to see their growth and communicated with their administration, and then coming on the trip and talking a lot about them being involved in their own communities.
Mhm.
I didn't even know about you mentioned like the mayor and those types of things, like, but it makes me so happy because that was the point, right? We want them to feel like this is not, I mean, it was a once in a lifetime experience, but it doesn't have to be just that. But we want them to see the impact of also just surrounding yourself with good people.
Right.
You know, we left there, my husband and I thought and said, we had that conversation like, man, it's just so energizing to be around good people, right? Like the students were wonderful and all the adults were wonderful. We had great conversations and just spending intentional time, those kids having intentional time with mentors, I think is really powerful. We just got to have like bus conversations about colleges, many of them were sharing about the colleges they're looking at or what they're thinking about doing next. And maybe some of these kids have those things all the time. I don't know, but that intentional time with good people, good students, good adults, having great mentor type conversations, and then being able to take those back to their communities and share them. A lot of them were FaceTiming a lot of their time there. They were already sharing with the community that excitement. And that was great. We loved it. We're like, yeah, tell your friends about what happens when, they handle their business. Like Aaron said, like they took care of things that are going to impact their future positively, academically, but just open doors and opportunities for them, and to share that with their communities really makes us so happy at School Days because it makes the larger impact possible, right? And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and just to shout out all the chaperones, administrators, they came along on the trip. As Katie mentioned earlier, like a huge trip like this, nothing's ever going to go perfectly according to plan. That would be ideal, but that wouldn't be realistic either. So I just say we had one slight hiccup, and no fault to anybody on the trip. It was just something that happened. And when I say like the chaperones didn't even hesitate, it was almost like, yeah, we do this. Like we deal with hiccups. And so shout out to everybody for kind of stepping up in that moment. And it didn't even really mess anything up as much as we thought it would. So shout out to everybody. I knew we had a good group, but that just kind of solidified the point right there. And then also, and I know we've mentioned ET, and obviously he gets all the kudos he deserves, but I think we'd be remiss just to not mention like how I did see the final tally of dollars. So how generous he is with his money, how much he does love to give back, and it wasn't at all a thing as to look at what I'm doing. And, I'm doing this and, you guys aren't doing what I'm doing. It has nothing to do with that. And, just every day along the trip, if something came up and we needed to spend money, like when I say it wasn't even a slightest bit of a hesitation, even down to the last Super Bowl day, he was like, do it. Like he just kept saying, do it, to the point where I'm on the phone. I felt like every 2 hours with the bank, like I need to increase the card. And, just I guess just the genuine heart he has, the philanthropy that he's doing. It's amazing. And, he's the GOAT. I call him the GOAT all the time, but he's for real is the GOAT.
Absolutely.
The things I saw him do over this weekend was just unmatched, seriously.
Yeah. And what's unmatched about it is the heart behind it. So, I mean, you were sharing the tangibles, right? But like he really, really cares about those kids. And that's why the whole thing happened to begin with. So we're lucky to all just be, along for the ride, helping make it happen. But for sure, he loves those kids and cares about them so much. And that's why the dream for the whole thing started and will continue. So we're excited to get back into your schools and into some other schools in the future and continue to make an impact for these kids, but other kids in the future too. So,
and to speak on ET just a minute, ET is not changed. ET is the same. When I met him in 95, 96 as he is today. He is a real, genuine person. He's always been a giver, and that's what he's about. And so, for him to be blessed with his accomplishments, I expect it because all that he's given to people. So again, I echo what Aaron said. He deserves so much credit, and I know he just desires to do more. And so I think, as you said, Katie, we're all blessed to have the Eric Thomas experience.
For sure. Hey, we are so glad you guys joined us today. We usually end with a round robin, so we'll do that like we traditionally do. So we'll just go right around. Everybody leave us with one last thought. I'll let you choose today, whether it's a wish for these kids for the future or a highlight from the trip or a moment that we'll always remember. But one quick last thought, and then we'll wrap it up today.
I have a quick last thought, and one more person I want to add to this shout out list, Markway Ball. Thank you, brother, for everything that you've done behind the scenes to
for sure.
make sure that we secured those tickets. So I want to give kudos to one of my best friends in the world. Been knowing him since our college days.
Shout out, Quay.
Markway Ball. Thank you, brother.
Definitely helped make it happen for the kids for sure.
Yeah,
I want to thank Eric Thomas. I know Aaron know how big of a fan I was when I was coming up in college, working out, playing a little professional football, and my workouts, I've always had Eric Thomas, in the background audio. I studied him, showed my students in my prior districts when I was a teacher. I was a dean of students. I was an athletic director, football coach. I always showed them his teachings, and it came about, and I just want to thank him for being, like you said, he never changed. And, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to shout out my administration, my teachers, my support staff, Superintendent Dr. Townsend for making this all happen, because like you said, it's just not one person. It's a lot of people behind the scenes, a lot of people getting the data, a lot of people doing this. And I know a lot of people wanted to come on a trip, but, I hope we can build this thing out where we could bring more chaperones and bring more students, because I know it changed some lives on this trip here. So I just want to thank everyone. Katie, I appreciate you guys being on point, Literacy Ladies. Aaron, you're my brother. Of
course.
Rockets since Saginaw Valley days.
Sure.
So it's going to continue, no matter where we're at.
Yes,
we're going to continue this partnership, this relationship. So appreciate everyone.
We said it was going to happen, man. About 2 years ago, we were like, every video Mark posting on Instagram working out, I heard ET in the background. I'm like, we're going to make it happen one day, man. So
yep.
Yep.
God is great, man.
Yep.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Coach.
I just want to say relationships are important. And I look on the screen and I think about my relationship with ET has connected Samantha to ET, has connected Aaron to ET, has connected CJ to ET, has connected TJ to ET. And to see my kids, I say my kids because they are, and to now be a part of Eric Thomas and what he's done because of our relationship, standing behind the stage before he came on one of his first times at Michigan State, and we praying and I'm saying, yeah, brother, you're gonna be phenomenal. And now to see my group of students who've had the opportunity when they were students to hear ET speak at Sexton, now work for him and with him. So relationships is what I really take away. And then the new relationships that I have with the people on the screen as well. I'm blessed.
Yeah. Love it. I'll just end with saying, I mean, we've talked in length about the trip and what it meant to these students, but we're not done. I guess is the best way I could
Thank you. We're
not done yet. And, the Super Bowl is literally just the start of it, right? So, we haven't went into full detail of what exactly we're going to do yet. We're still, hashing it out, but the Super Bowl can seem like small fries to some of the things that we got planned coming up in the future with the School Days Foundation. So I'm excited for what's in store moving forward.
And I just want to quickly jump in. Like, this just brought me so much life this morning. Thank you all for sharing. I was thinking when Coach Bogan was talking, like, dang, Aaron, with me, you, Campbell, Rollins, Sexton, can you imagine going to the Super Bowl with even Coach Bogan? I'm like, oh, I'm so cool. I get to go to the Super Bowl. And just that impact. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you for partnering with ET and, School Days Foundation. I also recognize like how difficult it's been being an educator, working in schools, and you are leading the way. And a lot of times, we don't check in on our leaders because like, oh, they got that, they're the leaders. And so to be able to have this experience and to deepen that relationship, with the students, I'm sure these relationships, like nobody else, it's like when you have that experience, like when I go home, like nobody else can even relate to this except for the people that I was with. And I know that bond and that impact will last forever. And I'm just so grateful that you all got to experience that with them, because I also know that you all are taking on a load and have been. So just extending my gratitude and thank you so much for sharing your experience today. Looking forward to many more great things in the future.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Sam. Yes, I think when we were there, I was telling somebody, we started dreaming about this trip specifically back in like July, I think, so seeing it come to fruition was really magical. And for me, the actual Super Bowl wasn't even like, it was awesome, but not like the highlight. Just watching the kids, the whole thing, they were amazed at like the food, the restaurant. When they got to the hotel, they were so grateful. The bus ride. They just like the experience as a whole was really magical for them. And we sent them home with books and some homework to read and to continue executing at school and doing a really, really amazing job as they have been. And so like Aaron said, this is definitely just the beginning. We're dreaming much bigger and excited about getting back into your schools and to some new schools and impacting more students. That's E's dream. And we're excited to be along to help out with it and to expose more kids and give them access to a future that they all deserve to have, for sure. So thanks for being with us, you guys. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
On the Extreme Teachers Podcast. Yeah, we'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.